I'm Nate. Yes, yeah, this is Nate over here. That's Justin. Thank you for taking the time to chat with us on the Geekcentric podcast. How
Pleasure.
are you both doing today?
Pretty good.
Terrific. Yeah, I
Yeah.
haven't seen him for a long time, so it's been good to have a bit of banter
I'm a
with this
pleasure
man.
to be
Yeah,
around, so
he's a
he's
pleasure to be around.
stoked to be reunited with me.
And you've
I
both
can,
got
I,
black
I can
shirts on,
imagine.
so it's all good.
Feels good.
Well, it was fantastic getting to see both your characters grow and develop over season one. We both really enjoy the show. Here in season two, this time around, Leon, what is something that maybe surprised you about where we found your character in this part of their story?
Um,
What you can say, maybe.
I don't know if it was a surprise. I think it was maybe inevitable, but I mean, listen, he made some big swings in season one and there were no consequences. And so what he's learned from that is he can really take big swings with very limited repercussions. So I think what we've seen between seasons is his dad has been running the shop while these guys have been off fighting a war that didn't go great.
Mhm.
And now he has a sense that rather than having to protect this thing he could lose, there's all this power that is available that he hadn't even considered. So this new Kemen is hungry. He wants more. He wants more respect. He wants more responsibility. He wants more for himself, and he's trying to get it as quickly as he can.
Hmm.
So I guess I should have seen that coming, and I always knew it was in there. I mean, Tolkien was fascinated in the fall of men,
Mm,
fascinated by, you know, that kind of greed and what it does to people.
mm.
Yeah.
But getting to play it this season was a real pleasure.
Yeah, you can see that there's a sense of wanting to prove something from Kemen's
Yeah,
character.
desperately. And wanting to
Right.
do it maybe before he's earned it, to seeing if he can force it.
Right.
Hmm.
Now, Lloyd, knowing the future of your character and where he ends up, does that influence your performance of Elendil?
It's a good question, and I think inevitably, well, there's two things at play here. One is I was 11 years old when I read The Hobbit, right? So I read that
Hmm.
book. So there's going to be an 11-year-old that's coming to watch Rings of Power. So I have to remember that 11-year-old who doesn't know anything about this story at all, as well
Right.
as those of us that do know this future. And I think, yeah, look, if you do my training's in the theatre. If you do a play, you get the whole script. You know what the beginning is and you know what the end is. That's the tradition of the theatre and of the actor, is you know the whole story, which means you can chart something out. So I like the fact that I do know that he has to become the leader of the last alliance of elves and men. And what's fascinating about that is so for those of us that know, there's not going to be a surprise that happens. But for those of us that don't know, of course, that will be brand new information. But within that, both those sort of polar views can both be served by this story, because for those of us that know, it's like fascinating to watch. Like, how is this leader made? What are the circumstances? What
Yeah.
are the challenges, the moral challenges, the difficult choices he has to make that shape this man? And I'm, in discussions with JD and Patrick, we're trying to, how do you shape a fallible human being that's going to make errors? If it's Tolkienian, like we were discussing, and if it's about the fall of man, he's going to make the wrong choices. His pride's going to get in the way. His ego's going to get in the way. The sense of responsibility, and what you see in season two is so much of that playing out. There's love of family, love of his daughter. There's love of nation, and then in between, the middle of that, there's his faith. And all three can't all coexist together in this current story. There has to be some choice made, and then perhaps it's the wrong choice. Perhaps, for those of us that love Elendil and have this hero archetype in our mind, but maybe his attitude to his daughter is unloving.
Hmm.
Maybe the choice of faith seems a selfish choice, because actually that's about the love of his daughter. And so we've got him in a very difficult position, and it's an absolute joy to get the juice out of that as the actor. And I just hope that you look at Elendil and you go, there is a human being, there's a man struggling that I recognise, and that I relate to that struggle of what it is to be human.
Agree. I totally agree with that.
Yeah, I mean, both from him and Isildur, especially with what we've seen this season, getting a lot of Aragorn vibes, which makes sense. So I'm loving it. Leon, for yourself, Kemen is a brand new character to the mythos of the Lord of the Rings, and we get to explore the political side, as you mentioned, of this story through him. And you yourself have mentioned in interviews how you went to university with a lot of people who were studying in politics. Have you connected with any of them since season one to make sure, like, get some feedback, get some insight into the political side of Kemen?
Actually, not since. I hadn't thought about that. I don't think anyone's I'm sure no one's mad at me. I mean, I just remember that ambition and that proximity to power, but not necessarily having it.
Yeah.
And that was something I definitely leant upon. But I think seeing what happens in season 2, I might get a few more calls. No one said anything to me after season 1.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, listen, congrats on the series, and thank you again for making the time to join us. We've seen the first 3 episodes, and we are very excited to see the rest of the season and see what your characters get up to. So thank you so much.
Yeah.
Thank you.
It's a fun ride. Enjoy it. See ya.
Awesome. Have a good one,
Sweet.
guys.
Thanks, guys.